Welcome Pisces to your in-depth monthly forecast for May 2024 for the Ascendant, the Sun or the Moon. On the screen now is the event chart right at the start of the month. Let's just take a look at some of the key influences here. First of all, we need to be mindful of your two rulers. Your traditional ruler is Jupiter. That's pretty close to Uranus still. If you recall, they came into an exact conjunction on the 21st of April. That occurs once every 14 years, so it's an influence that can have an impact on us all collectively. But for you, very much around your beliefs, which could go through quite the shift. Uranus has been an unsettling influence in that area, a very unpredictable one for the last 5 or 6 years. Jupiter brings your understanding, your big picture analysis. Now Neptune does retain its location in your sign. In fact, they're on pretty good terms. They're only about maybe 5 degrees apart. So that suggests that your instincts are important to your ideas. Nothing wrong with that. But also in your own sign is the strict Saturn still, but critically the midpoint between the Moon in Aquarius and the Sun in Taurus. The midpoint is the yin-yang of this particular event. If we think the Sun is very much about what we want to go for in a very direct and immediate way, it's where we're directed in a sense. The Moon's much more to do with where we're reflective and we're deploying our perceptions and protectiveness. And that Moon is in a sheltered location, the 12th house, very close to Pluto. That suggests some emotions could get stirred up at the start of this month, but the midpoint is in your sign and forging an amazing alliance with Jupiter, your ruler. So it's important, even if some stuff does come up that's rather delicate, with Pluto square to Venus, now back in Taurus, 29th of April, it rules Taurus. That brings a little bit more calm and diplomacy to your everyday communications. But Pluto suggests some unspoken, perhaps even secretive stuff could come into the open around a romantic relationship or a financial matter. But the Moon is going to move forwards on the first day and applying a square to the Sun. 12th, third house energies are not easy. The 12th house is where we become much more conscious of who we can't rely upon. It's also deeply psychological because Pluto is the planet of power, but also of revelations. Maybe something will surface that is going to trigger a tenderness within you. But because of that midpoint forging such a great angle to Jupiter, you must keep the faith, because as this month goes on, the power of your words and the power of your intent is definitely going to be intensified in a very positive way. Now Mars has also left your sign. That occurred on the 30th of April, and it's moved into Aries, which it governs. It's going to be there for 6 weeks. Mars loves being in Aries because, of course, it's a fire sign, and Mars is all about action, listening to our instincts and going for it. And actually, Mars is forging a terrific link with Pluto, which shows that 12th house energies doesn't all have to be linked to that concept of secret enemies. It can be what we're doing behind the scenes. It can be to do with research, taking soundings, just thinking very carefully and deeply about what we want. So the things that you're doing that are more subtle can still have a powerful impact, particularly around your finances and through the first week of this month. So that's the story as we come into the month. Also Mercury, which was in that retrograde from the 1st to the 25th, is no longer. So a financial issue that seemed a bit scrambled or you were unsure about should start to clarify. The post-retrograde shadow ends on the 13th of this month, and then Mercury moves up the gearbox, moves into Taurus to join up with Venus, the Sun, Uranus and Jupiter, and the pace of life will get faster. But that takes us to the 2nd of this month, Pisces, when Pluto goes retrograde. It's going to be retrograde through to the 10th of October. And on the 2nd of September, it's going to invert back into your 11th house. So some of the psychological challenges you may have been experiencing, or a sense of isolation since the 21st of January, or for the 11 weeks of its transit last year, from the 27th of March to the 11th of June, can make way, and you may find yourself reconnecting to someone you've not been in touch with for a while. But of course, that is a bit down the track. But essentially, Pluto's retrograde doesn't stop the fact that it's squaring up with Venus, but also in a tremendously motivational link with Mars. So what we need to do is integrate these energies so they work for you. If some fears come up, for example, for you, and that's possible with Pluto squaring Venus, perhaps about a relationship, or you do have a frank heart-to-heart and ventilate something that's been worrying you because Pluto is in the air Aquarius, that can only be good. So see it as a potential positive. But Pluto's link to Mars really does encourage you to keep going with your research, taking those soundings, because it is preparing you for something really quite sensational that can evolve as this month goes on. And the reason for this, Pisces, is that on the 8th there's a new moon. But this new moon links back to Saturn in your sign. Now, Saturn may have been a tough old influence in terms of your energy over the last year, particularly if you're born early in the sign of Pisces, so the first 10 degrees, the first decan. You may have felt that your vitality was affected, your enthusiasm. Perhaps you've had to narrow your life down, in some way modify your activities to simplify your situation. That's what happens with Saturn in the first house. But this new moon in the third house of ideas, interaction with neighbours and siblings and sharing your ideas, links in a very solid way to Saturn. So some of the sacrifices you may have made over the last year can start to make sense. Then on the 13th, Mercury ends that post-retrograde shadow. The 15th moves into Taurus, speeds up, but clashes with Pluto. Once again, something could come into the open that you're not expecting. Take it in your stride, because in week 3, what manifests is one of the greatest planetary influences possible in astrology. And what makes it very rare is that Venus is the ruler of Taurus, and Jupiter will only visit each sign once every 12 years. So they are coming together, but just as they do, the Sun relocates into the sign of Gemini. If you're wanting to move, if you're wanting to redecorate, if you're wanting to reconnect with someone you had a real kinship with, maybe to do with the early parts of your life, you could feel sensationally sentimental. The influences at the end of this month are very enriched indeed, because on the 23rd, Venus, the lesser benefic, and Jupiter, the greater benefic, come together in a conjunction. If you are someone who enjoys a little bit of a flutter, this could be a time when you could enjoy a spot of fortune. But there's something very fundamental shaping up here, because then Venus on the 23rd moves, followed by Jupiter on the 25th. We have a full moon on the 23rd too. So the Sun, Venus, the full moon, Jupiter, they all link amazingly powerfully and positively to Pluto. So though Pluto is awkward for you at the start of the month in its square with Venus, is awkward when it goes into the retrograde in a way, is awkward in its square with Mercury mid-month, by the end of the month it can bring you a huge reward, particularly if you have been very sacrificed and done a lot to help other people. Perhaps you've worked in an institution where you didn't necessarily get a lot of recognition, but you still very faithfully supported those, perhaps those who are less fortunate, maybe to do with a hospital, maybe in a governmental department where you provide services, maybe in a big business, or maybe in some kind of spiritual role. But your reward can come towards the end of this month, because people are going to let you know how much they appreciate what you do for them. But also the rewards could be a change of residence, an upgrade in your physical environment. So that could be new furnishings, decorations, a refit of some kind of evolution within yourself deeply in terms of your relationship with your own emotions. You can reach a point of peace and tranquility, which may have proved to be somewhat elusive at times, particularly with Uranus really being very, very aggravating to the nervous system in recent years. But something very sweet can come to pass at the end of this month. It could be a beautiful family reunion. Whatever it is, it's all about the more nurturing, kindly, and tender part of life will give you a great sense of tranquility and peace as this month draws to a close. It's been great being with you, Pisces. I hope you have a wonderful May. Did you know we've done some research and 55% of people who view my videos are not subscribers? If you are one of them, please support the channel. Please click on the subscription button and click or tap on the bell notification symbol. Every time I drop a video, you'll get an alert. Thank you.